Call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, someone online. All right. So call a special meeting to order. Obviously, there's only a limited number of topics we'll cover. First is the consideration of the minutes from our last meeting of February 12th. Any commentaries? And everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Motion so passed. Chairman's report. I have no report, which will make it go quickly. In ongoing business, the two agenda items for tonight, one is a review of the 10-year capital budget, and the second is a discussion of the tax abatement. So I'll open the discussion of the 10-year capital budgets. Chiefs, you have some handouts, something for us to review?
Not in the tax abatement, not in the budget, no. I didn't add anything to it. I left it where John added that.
Okay. Bill, anything?
No, the only thing that I have here also would be, expenditures to date. I thought that would be an open discussion tonight, so.
Now we'll get that at the next regular meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So as I provided that back to you guys are comfortable with the way that looks.
I mean, the guy that you put together, yeah, very good, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We will roll with that. Did I copy that to you and I sent it to everybody? Okay, so,
The template that they requested
Yeah.
that they fill in. Yeah.
all right, there it is, letter of the law.
So I have some questions, though.
Sure.
On let's just start with Stony Hills, because in the 24-25, I assume we made all those purchases for the aerial pump, the aerial truck, the command vehicle for the chief, and the Parajet. We made all three of those purchases, correct?
Correct.
So 24-25 is all set for you. And the 25-26, to be clear, we got 8,500 for tires on something.
For engine 3.
That's not engine 3. I had engine 3. The paperwork you submitted to me is needing tires in 26-27. And that was for $4,000.
For tires?
Yeah.
You can buy tires for $4,000, but.
Well, engine 3 is the single axle truck, right? Yeah. Well, we just bought tires for the ladder truck in Bethel for $7,000, and that's a twin screw.
I thought engine 3 was this year, am I correct or am I wrong?
So I was trying to, I got to look at her.
I was just going by what you submitted to me earlier last year. And I had for Stony Hill, I had tires for utility 5 in the 25-26 budget. And then 26-27, I had tires for engine 3.
But I don't know, you're right, I don't know until he could.
Can I ask you a question? Chief, just quick, did you say the single axle that they had asked for like 4,100 for the tires?
Well, that was the number that I
I'm just asking
originally
for
had
clarification. That's all.
was $4,000 for engine 3. And I know we just spent $7,000 on Bethel's ladder, which is a twin screw.
Thank you. Can I?
But now he's saying he needs 8,500 in this year as opposed to next year.
I just want to make a general statement about that. I just put tires on 2 different single axle fire trucks in the last month, and it was exactly $4,100 each. So that might be pretty accurate.
Yeah, like I said, this was the paperwork it was either you or Matt turned in, earlier last year.
It would have been Baker's done it then.
Well, John turned it in, but I don't know if Matt prepared it or somebody prepared it. They had all the tire dates, the current dates of the tires and everything that are currently on the vehicles.
That's correct, then it's next year, but it's not this year.
So then we should remove that 8,500 out of the 25-26 and change it to 4,000 and put in the 26-27 capital.
Give them a little extra, tires will go up, maybe 43 or something.
Well, this, I don't know why this isn't in the capital already, because all this paperwork was turned into the comptroller. When I was the chairman, we turned in the capital tire requests and the bottle requests.
Right,
And
so,
very
back
little
to-
of it is actually showing up.
right, so we went back to clean it up, and the template I sent out had every truck, tires for every truck, all the bottles, and both sections were the same. Like, essentially had the same items, and then there were oddities like the Paratech and stuff like that that were,
Right.
isolated incidents, that we wanted to replace. So my hope was to get that document back with every vehicle with its visibility to its tires and age of the vehicle, and also vehicle replacement in that.
Well, this was the document that I turned into the comptroller.
This I hadn't seen.
That was what we put together,
Mhm.
whatever, I forget what month it was. But we
Yeah, and
can't,
this is just tires.
that's
so-
just
so-
tires
So this,
for
we
both
can-
departments.
right, so this we can take and move into that template I have. It basically delineates every vehicle.
Right.
And it also filled it up with more information so that when Brad is looking at it or the board of selectmen are looking at it, what year the vehicle is, how many tires it has. So it's, it's crystal clear when everybody's looking at it, what we're all talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I didn't break it down,
Yeah.
what year each vehicle. I mean,
No, and that's part of,
I broke it down, what vehicle it was and cost.
right, so I also put the refurb of each vehicle in there, right? To get it on what is a 10-year plan or a 20 or 30-year plan. And had the expected ages. So I would suggest this hasn't really gone the way I expected. I thought we were gonna get that back with commentary and everything spelled out. So that hasn't worked.
All right, so. All right. And then, all right, so I don't know, I'm confused. So
I think
that's,
we do it again. We think we send it out again. And
all right, so anything that's on this capital plan list here that says tires, we should disregard and put these new numbers in with the appropriate years.
Yep, I would agree.
And then, just to be clear, the 65,000, that's an accurate number for mobile radios for pre-apparatus.
As of the last quote that we got,
And that's just
it's
your department.
just our department.
Okay. Because,
That was something that had to be discussed, because me and Tommy were discussing that the other day, how that could be different from Bethel. But that should be one, it should be all put into one thing for both departments. I don't think that it should be an individual thing.
right, well, that's my next question. We have it in two separate fiscal years. We have 65,000 for you this year and 65,000 for Bethel next year.
Yeah,
We should be doing it all at once.
Is that one that was transposed?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, yes, but that's
23 and the 65?
the 33 and the 65, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it's
Different years and
but still in the wrong year, still in different years.
in different amounts, right?
And then we come to the conclusion that was gonna be for this coming year, that we needed.
So Fred, I talked to Tom Galliford about the radio and he's watching. He called the police department and asked the captain what the plan was.
Yeah.
And they're not turning it on till 29 because of the 29 budget, they need $3 million to finish their end of it. So if you ask, Tom is on here,
Yeah,
he probably knows the story better than all of us.
so can we get an answer from Mr. Galliford as to what you?
Well, I'll give you the information I know. It may not be the answer. I talked to Captain Burns. She is not aware. So, right, basically what wants to happen is the police department, who handles the main communication system, want to go to a digital radio system. And it's my understanding we would all do it together as one project. That's like between like a 2.5. I think in their capital, in the 10-year capital plan for the town, I think it's around $2.5 to $3 million to do that upgrade. What that covers, I don't know. She really didn't have a lot of information. She's not aware of it happening. And Pete said, it was around the 28, 29, I believe, budget year to do that. So what the fire departments need to do is, all of our portables are digital capable, so that's not a problem. It's all the mobile radios in the apparatus and the chief's vehicles that then would have to be replaced and upgraded to make them digital capable, so that when the switchover happens, they'll be ready to go. And the PD already did that this past year. They just replaced all their mobile radios, the same mobile radios that all the fire trucks have from, what do we say, 22, 23 years ago. They just replaced them all, so they're all set on that end. So yeah, it should be one number for all the apparatus that needs a new mobile radio to be able to go digital, is what I think should be presented to the Board of Finance at the time. You know, whether we do it a year or two before this big project happens, or we do it in conjunction and add that amount to that project, you know, that's a point of discussion, I guess.
Casey, do you have the ability to print that template? Down and hand out?
Sure.
I can send it back to you if you want.
So it would seem to me that, I mean, we have the 65,000 for each department in 2 different years. We should take that and put it into 1 year. Well, I mean,
Yeah, just
it has to be a separate number for each department, unless we're gonna move it all into one project, you know, encompass it with the
One
police
project.
department.
Right, it would make more sense, wouldn't it?
Might be better savings.
I think probably from the comptroller standpoint, that makes it confusing, where to take the money from, but I don't know.
Right.
How-
And I believe that
Yeah.
the cost of that project, right, I think it's over $1 million. It technically would have to go to a town referendum for a project over $1 million. So to me, it makes sense you got 2 choices. You can purchase these radios for the fire department ahead of time, you know, whatever cost that is, knowing that it's going to be ready to go when they go digital, or include it in that time when they go digital and include it in that larger price tag of whatever equipment's needed for it. So those are kind of, to me, it would be the 2 logical choices of how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would hate to buy radios now for a project that's not gonna go into effect until 29. I mean, if we're talking, you know, we're talking about 5-year-old radios, and at that point, they're halfway to obsolete.
That's why I think it's some great technology to change.
Actually, can you just call it up? Why don't you just call it up?
Show the document up here.
Now we're stuck.
Right, their project's been approved somewhere, right?
I'm sorry,
The police department's project's been approved through some process somewhere.
it seems so.
It seems so.
I don't think it is. I think it's same thing, right? In this 10-year capital plan that the finance want, there's just a number at a date, you know, at some point, that's when they want to do it. I don't think all the specs and everything have been worked out and it hasn't been approved, so to speak.
It would have been nice to just all buy portable or truck radios together at the same time, the same thing, the same spec, the same.
Yeah,
Right, but to the point of them being halfway to obsolete by the time we
5-year-old radios.
start using them to their capabilities.
We're not even sure if we want digital capabilities in the fire department, are we?
Can we talk about this while we're waiting? Yeah. Okay. The $65,000 is a pretty accurate figure. If you were to estimate that there were 8 mobiles for each fire company, that would be 6 on apparatus in Bethel and 2 in the chief's cars. And that would come out at $8,000 each, 64,000. So 65 is right in the ballpark. That digital system was, the infrastructure was built by the state of Connecticut, and we tap into that. And so we're not building our own tower system, whatever. It's already there. So all we have to do is get the proper software and the proper radios and, you know, get the proper permitting from the state to tap into that system, which is basically what most of the departments around here are doing. So the infrastructure of having to worry about millions and millions of dollars.
So gonna make a motion to return back to the meeting. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Meeting is resumed.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion here. I'm gonna make a motion that we incorporate this 10-year tire replacement plan that takes us up to the 33-34 fiscal year. I'll make a motion that we incorporate that into the 10-year plan.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Before we discuss it, before we vote on it, Casey, can you get that document or is it gonna throw everything off again?
Should be fine. Are you okay with me presenting it to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was the realignment I did on that document. To try to streamline what it all looked like. Highlighting, so it's a much more functional document that's showing everyone what they, and if we can pass out copies of them. But the idea was to come back with this thing filled out. You know, talking about serviceable life on gear, tires, and vehicles. So it's all spelled out. And then it goes across, I think it goes 20 years out. So I'll take the information you just gave me on the tires year by year. I'll drop it into this, and then we still are gonna wind up with the question about what year for the radios and what amounts.
I'm gonna make a motion on that.
Figured you might.
You called me a motion hog last.
You are a
last
motion.
meeting.
You love making motions. All right, so I don't think I accomplished what I was trying to do to streamline this budget sheet. I don't think that worked out so well. So we're gonna take another shot at that.
Yeah.
And I'll share that with everybody so you can see what I had suggested, and we'll go from there. Meanwhile, I'll put these tires in. So, a vote on Fred's motion. It's been seconded, and it's to add the tires to the up through 34 plan. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Fred, anything you'd like to share?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we remove the 65,000 out of the 25-26 fiscal year for Stony Hill and the 65,000 out of the 26-27 for the Bethel Fire. And we respectively make it 70,000 for each department, and we move it into the 28-29 fiscal year for radio replacement.
Second on the motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Mr. Holmberg looks like he's
I-
contemplating something.
I still don't even know who's, like, what are they gonna do? They're gonna put this out to bid, they're gonna have a bond issue, they're gonna, who's police department's in charge? We're budgeting for something we don't even know what's really going on.
Well, I think it's more of a placeholder.
True, but it's, I mean, the whole purpose of the capital plan is to give the town some insight of what their, their
Future
Their
expenditures.
future expenditures are gonna be.
liabilities to them in the long term.
Mr. Chairman, if I can maybe suggest a alternate to the motion, maybe do it the 27-28 year. That way we're talking about it more before the actual thing happening. It can always get pushed back.
Makes sense. Fred, you open to amending your motion?
I mean, if the rest of the commission feels that that's appropriate, I would be willing to.
What do you say? Can you push back?
Yeah.
I support sooner rather than later, because I think for Rich's
All right,
part, should go up in 2029, we push back.
I'll amend the motion to be the use of the 27-28 fiscal year.
Yeah,
I'll amend my motion to move the 70,000 for each department respectively to 27-28 fiscal year for radio replacement.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right, so that we're still on the 25. Well, go back to the 24-25 fiscal year. Bethel had 125,000 in to refurbish the tanker. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And I question the need to actually refurbish the tanker. What would a refurbishment on the tanker be? And is that the next vehicle that should be refurbished or replaced?
You want to speak to that? I'll let you if you want to.
I don't believe the truck needs anything right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll make a motion that the 125,000 be removed. I mean, we've already gone past it, we'll get 425 this year, but
It was never allocated.
it hasn't been allocated. I'll just make a motion that money be
Never
removed.
allocated.
Right. So moving on to back to
So
the,
just to, again, call your attention to the spreadsheet I'm suggesting. You're showing each vehicle with its refurb replacement plan and number of years. So the yellow highlight there is how many years is a serviceable life. So we can get into this and each vehicle's identified by its age, and we can start to figure out where these things all fall in what is presumably gonna be a 25 or 30-year window.
I couldn't imagine that truck needing anything, refurbished or replaced them anytime.
If anything,
Minor.
It's gonna last at least 30 years.
Yeah, mine is stuff.
not mine.
Maintenance things.
Yeah, regular maintenance.
Maintenance, right.
So that's part of what I wanted to get into this when we review this and after the chiefs, let's start to lay this out and see what it looks like. Because obviously the 125 made no sense where it was and
Right.
We just need to vote on. the
So we need to vote on
Oh.
to removing that
There
125.
was a first and a
Yeah.
second.
okay, vote on that, removing the 125. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, number two.
Everyone likes this topic.
All right, on the 25, 26, we had $125,000 to replace 69 BL, which is the 2015 Chevy Tahoe. I'm gonna make a motion that that be removed since that vehicle is not being appropriately used at this time anyway.
What's the total on that again? I'm sorry.
$125,000.
69 is the newest one?
It would be the Chevy Tahoe that this commission made a recommendation be returned to the chief at our last meeting and still has not been returned. So I'll make a motion since it's being inappropriately used at this time, that we just remove it from our capital budget.
You have a second for that? So we can discuss it.
We don't.
I'll second for discussion. What's the condition of the vehicle?
Decent?
Okay.
Yeah. Not great, but decent, 10 years old.
Have any idea what the mileage is on it?
Can't be accurate on that.
Okay.
Give me an idea. 65,000.
How much?
I might be research for that. I'm not going there.
Move the motion.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions? Motion passes. Anything else in the near term, Fred?
I'm sorry?
Anything else on the near term you're seeing there? I do want to get this in the new format, so it's easier.
Yeah, I mean, that takes care of last year and then the 25, 26 fiscal year. In the 26, 27, we moved the radio amount. We assumed that 33 and the 65, that was transposed.
Yep.
So it should be 33 for airbags and rescue rope replacements. I know we just replaced a bunch of rope, but we're gonna have to replace more rope in 26, 27 for Bethel, and you have airbags there.
We talked about $4,500 left approximately, just to finish that whole purchase off. To make that whole rescue set complete. And Dave and I talked about it. It was, yeah, I think, we said about 4,500.
Yeah.
Was the final figure. Yeah.
And that's an accurate expiration on the airbags.
No, that was just for the rope and the supporting hands-on rescue
Well,
equipment.
this line item says 3,300 for rescue one airbags and rescue rope replacements.
Okay, I was
The
just,
airbags had a 10-year lifespan,
I understand.
so
So,
it's covered
how old
under
are
a
they?
10-year lifespan.
around here.
Their license.
So that's accurate, that they would need to be replaced in 26, 27.
Correct.
And then Stony Hill has $20,000 for a full set of battery operated extrication tools. I don't know. It boggles my mind, the amount of extrication tools we have in this town. It's just, I mean, Stony Hill's got extrication tools on 3 different trucks. Bethel's got them on 2 different trucks. I mean, I don't know. We don't have that many miles of roadway to justify the amount of extrication tools we have in my mind.
Well, Stony Hill can answer that question, right? And then is there,
Just to replace the gas tools, to get rid of them. That's all I can say to that.
so it's not new tools, it's
No,
replacement
it's just
tools?
replacing the old tools we have.
I understand your thought behind that, Chief, and that's always been the sentiment in the past. You know, the last go around when we bought electric tools was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be used to replace the hydraulic stuff we have, but yeah, we still keep all the hydraulic stuff and we're still servicing all the hydraulic stuff. And we're keeping all that hydraulic stuff on the trucks, and I mean, if we're replacing it, we're replacing it, but it seems like we just keep adding to the stockpile rather than replacing it.
Well, we did lose one hydraulic motor, 2 years ago, we lost the second motor in the back of the rescue. So we only have one hydraulic pump on Rescue 2 now, so once that other pump's done, we will be all hydraulics on that truck.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, personally, I'd rather see us move into the hydraulic tools, but to me, it doesn't make sense to continue to maintain all these hydraulic tools.
Well, we're not gonna replace all the hydraulic tools at once, it would cost millions to replace what we have.
Can I speak on that?
That's my point is I think we have way more than we need. I mean, do you need to have hydraulic extrication tools on 3 different pieces of apparatus in Stony Hill?
If we have them, yeah, we might as well have them on the truck.
Yeah. So what's the first run
Shall I talk about the batteries?
transportation vehicle that's going?
That one
The
already.
rescue.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, just to address Chief Ingram's statements, what we're finding now is, and I'm going to defer to the chief engineer, the replacement of the batteries on the hydraulics now are becoming a challenge. They told us last week when they were servicing, there's a shelf life. And you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, the batteries they have a lifespan between 8 and 9 years. They're $800 a battery, and we have 6 batteries for the tools that we have on the rescue truck. But in regards to the lined Hirsch tools, every single lined Hirsch tool that we have in both firehouses are obsolete. There's no parts available. When they break, they're being taken out of service. We can't even fix them. And the servicing that they're doing is they're just doing very minor dust caps and stickers, and that's it. That's all they're charging us for.
So they're sitting around because they weren't bad, but they were replaced. That's why they're still working. Right, and that's why the hydraulic stuff's sitting around.
Yes.
Because it hasn't died yet, but it's also
Right, at
not
least that's why we
primary.
still have it. I mean, it's a lot of money in tools. Back in the day, to spend money like that on these tools, there's a lot of money in Hirsch tools there, and you can't just take them and throw them into the garbage. You might as well use them until they break.
The other aspect of that too is we use it for training all the time.
Mhm.
You know, they're good training tools, especially for the new people, the Fire 1 class, the Fire 2 classes. And, you know, if you could have stuff like that working in the backyard all day and not have to worry about taking your hydraulics off, God forbid there's a rescue call and stuff, you just go right out the door with it. You know how long it takes to break that stuff down and put it back on a wagon and go out the door. So, you know, there's other ways of looking at your stuff too. But I talked to the First guy the other day when he was there, and he said to me, I'm going to be honest with you. He said, don't expect anything that I worked on today to be available for replacement. He said, we don't have the parts. We have no intention to do it. Maybe you can go on Amazon someplace and find it or whatever. He said, but we're not going to do it. And he just wanted to make that very clear. But
So Chief, can you just clarify for me, what do you have in your department for hydraulics?
okay, these hydraulics, everything's on the rescue right now. Okay, so we've got the spreaders, the cutters, and the ram, 2 rams, two rams
So,
right now. And the thing that I'm really just concerned about now is this battery replacement. This battery whole concept that we're dealing with on the planet now, it's getting more and more expensive, and we're seeing the shelf life maybe not going as long as we thought. So as David just pointed out there, that's a $7,200 bill to replace those batteries. And I don't really think we saw that coming. Now we are. It's on our laps because they're not going to fix the hydraulics. So we really have to address that.
And Chief, what do you have for hydraulics in your department?
We have a spreader cutter and 2 rams.
So you have identical
Yeah,
equipment
yeah.
as far as hydraulics goes in both departments. And you're looking to add a second set
Yes.
in 26, 27. And $20,000 buys a second set. That's
I don't know if that's an accurate number today, but I could get an accurate number.
well, I asked because I look out in Bethel and they got it in 28, 29 for 65,000.
I think
That's,
each tool's
that's
about
more than 3 times the
$12,000.
amount.
Each tool's about $12,000.
Yeah, I'm thinking this number's a little light, or maybe that number's might be a little heavy, or I'm thinking this number is probably a little more accurate than that number.
I believe each tool is about $12,000 for the cutters, 12 grand, the spreaders about 12 grand, and then the 2 rams between like 12 and 14.
and,
They
you
got
got-
some-
and some batteries in the batteries.
And then the batteries is the big. I'm not sure.
And so if we're looking to keep the rescue tools in Stony Hills 26, 27 capital budget, I would make a motion that Chief Evanuska comes back to us with an accurate number, because I don't believe that $20,000 number is accurate for a full set of hydraulics.
It's not for a whole set.
Is that a motion?
I mean, that is a motion.
Second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. You get homework every time.
All right, and then you also have $1 million to replace Rescue 2 in 26, 27. I don't know, last time I spoke to Dan, we already discussed this and we agreed, or we recommended that engine 3 be maintained. I don't think that Dan has kind of expressed he's still not in the favor of maintaining that engine out in Stony Hill. I mean, my personal opinion is I think engine 3 and rescue 2 ought to be combined into a rescue pumper if it was possible. You know, more of a rescue than a pumper, but I don't know.
And Fred, I'm not against that, but the issue that we're gonna have, that's not gonna be something that we're gonna, you know, we gotta find a truck this year and, you know, it's gonna be an ordered truck. It's gonna be something that's gonna be built.
Yeah,
Well, you know what I mean? I'm not talking getting a spec truck and just throwing a set of Hurstvils on there and calling it a rescue pumper. It's gonna be.
right. Well, I mean, I'm a little bit confused. I mean, only because when the ladder truck was presented, Chief Baker presented it as, this is gonna be our first due engine. We're gonna run this thing first due to everything. And that kind of seems to be not the case today. It seems like you're still running engine 3 first due to more things than not. I mean, I just think from my standpoint, I'm just not clear as to which way you guys are going with your response policies. So it does, you know, it kind of makes it confusing for us to say, well, you need this truck, you need that truck. So I don't know. I mean, what is your response policy gonna be? I mean, are you gonna continue to run engine 3 as your first due apparatus? Or is your plan to move into running truck 4 as your first due piece of apparatus?
As of right now, engine 3 is still going out the door first, yes. Until we get more people qualified on truck 4 and really nail down what we're gonna send it to. I'm gonna meet with Billy about, if we're gonna send it down here first downtown versus there's things in the works with that.
I mean, does combining engine 3 and rescue 2 into one piece of apparatus make sense, or does that not make sense for you?
To me, it does, but I don't know about the rest of the membership.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you gotta carry, you know, for a rescue. I know we're keeping a lot of stuff, but if we're running engine 1 and we're running truck 4 as pumpers, do we need to keep all that firefighting stuff on a rescue pumper, or could, you know, just, I mean, I know there's certain stuff that we have to keep, you know, for a standard, to meet the standards, but if we carry less firefighting equipment on our rescue pumper and make, you know, focus it more as a rescue truck, could we combine those two vehicles into one?
I think we could, but it's gonna be a matter of how we build the truck. And what, like you said, what is mandatory to have on the,
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this is coming up in the, not this fiscal year, but the following fiscal year, you got $1 million to replace a truck and you know, here we are talking about is that the right route to even go?
and that probably number is probably too low right now.
But, you know, you're right.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
listen, I need engine 3 coming downtown as a backup. I'm just gonna tell you that. I'm being selfish here. We pumped engine 3 at the fire there, and we had 2 lines off it. So, you know, we're still working that engine, all right, 48 hours ago. But with the incredible amount of construction in this town, especially the stuff that's proposed and has been approved downtown, having a 3rd Class A engine coming down for water supply, you know, tactical setup on different sides of the building, knowing that there's a Class A engine coming down quick, I'm all in favor of that. You know, whether you decide to create a squad concept or whatever with that. But right now, I'm very supportive of having that engine. All right. I can see that if I don't get a 2nd engine out during the day, which happens, and I got engine 3 coming, I got something good coming right off the bat. So from a tactical standpoint and a support standpoint, I'm in favor of keeping that. And I'm not just sitting there supporting my brothers in Stony Hill. I'm talking about here from a tactical, you know, management standpoint. This is a good piece, and I'd like to see it coming. But I think the easiest way to resolve this, Chief, let's get somebody in here from ISO, and let's see what they say about what our requirements are for our pumping capabilities based on this just unbelievable explosion of growth in this community, especially those apartment buildings out in Stony Hill and the ones they're going to build downtown too. I think you find, being an insurance guy, that if you start looking at the ISO guidelines and what's required for pumping capabilities and equipment, I don't think that we're too far off of what we have right now. To get rid of something, I think might be a little dicey. So rather than me make that decision, we can get an ISO guy to come down here and talk to us at a commissioners meeting or maybe at a special meeting and have them give us a little bit of insight as to how that might affect the overall insurance rating of the town, which could have a profound effect on the insurance rates, and see where this whole thing would go. But
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we get rid of engine 3. I'm just throwing it out there, making a suggestion that maybe we combine engine 3 and rescue 2 into one vehicle.
make like a squad concept. Yeah,
Exactly.
well, that's planning for the future, you know. So
when was our last ISO rating?
I'm sorry.
When was our last ISO rating?
Ooh,
Tommy, when-
I mean-
Probably answer the question. I know I did one when I was chief, but that was,
We are overdue.
That was
We
us.
had- Yeah, so
Last-
I spoke with them a few months ago and we're gonna try to do it this year.
what was our last rating?
It was a 4, don't hold me to it, a 4/8B or something, 8A, because of the Codfish Hill areas and the areas that are non-hydrated, you get a split rating, but it's a 4/8B, I think, or 8A, something like that.
it's a,
So-
Tom, you're right. It's a 4B, 8A. The 4B is the hydrant district and the
Right.
8A is the unhydrated district.
Yeah, and I think,
So,
and again, don't hold me to it, because I don't have the information in front of me, but I think we're required to have, I think, 3 pumpers and a spare, which we obviously currently do with the 4 engines, so we're kind of where we're supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, it's I spoke to the rep last fall, and they're on our radar. We're overdue, so it's just something we got to sit down with them and give them all the paperwork, basically. So
Motion guy. You have something for this $1 million here?
no, I think I was just looking for, I guess, some direction from the chief is to, I mean, is $1 million to replace the rescue truck really the route you want to go? Or is there a consideration to maybe spend a little bit more and replace Rescue 2 and Engine 3 with one super piece of apparatus.
Let's table it and see what the ramifications are of combining. Will that affect our rating? Which would affect every citizen's.
Well, I don't think it's gonna affect the rating because you're still, I mean, if you're gonna get a rescue pumper, it's still gonna be a Class A pumper. So you're still gonna be maintaining 5 pumpers in the town.
Combines and something always gives.
Engine one would also operate as a tanker if it was in the non-hydrogen district. So you'd lose an engine there.
What's the next truck to be replaced? Is it
That's the other question.
truck?
Is Rescue 2 truly the next truck that needs to be either refurbished or replaced in this town?
Yeah.
I mean, I would, with the old.
I would
case
think
study,
so. It's,
Rescue 2 was supposed to be replaced in 2019 from the first study we had.
Can we look at a new update of the vehicles? Does the fire department give us a recommendations on what needs to be replaced?
No, we did.
We
did that whole study and they gave us a replacement.
we just talked about the tanker downtown that we said it doesn't need it. That was on the schedule too, so.
So what's Bethel's next vehicle will need?
Bethel's next in line is the Rescue, 2003. Tanker 2005, the squad's at 15. Engine 6 at 19. Stony Hill Rescue 2 is at 99. Engine 3 is at 2005.
So just looking at dates, that's the old.
Rescue 2 is. Yeah. So 19, it's a 20-year, that's tagging it at a 20-year.
It's never been refurbed.
Just lights. Just a light upgrade.
Yes, we did.
It says it's a 99, but it's never been refurbed.
He's saying 2001. but
It's either 99 or 2000.
Rescue 2 is a 1999. Its current age was 24 years. Its life expectancy was 15 years. And it's 9 years overdue for replacement, according to the study that we paid an exorbitant amount of money to have done.
And there's no option to refurb that.
We are refurb.
I don't know what's wrong with it,
Commercial chassis then.
other than it's old.
No, it's not. It's not a commercial chassis.
No,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
wrong with custom.
They have a life, this study we had done put a life expectancy on every piece of apparatus this town owns of 15 years.
Which is unreasonable. for a rural
It's
town.
absolutely ludicrous. I mean, we just talked about
Yeah.
Bethel's tanker, we could expect to get at least 30 years out of that, or 35. I mean, I drove that truck the other day, it's got 8,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And it's probably got a couple of hundred pump hours on it. So, I don't know. Yeah. According to the study we had done, Rescue 2 is overdue for replacement. Engine 3 is overdue for replacement. S1 was replaced, so we're good there. Tower 1 is overdue for replacement. Utility 1 is overdue. Rescue 1 is overdue, and Tanker 1 is overdue. I don't know. I don't have any motion on it. I just brought it up for consideration.
No, it's all valid. I think those reports are looking at different kinds of uses, right, than we have here.
Right. You're looking at, say, express a need, if it's a need, like if there's a problem with the truck.
It's ridiculous.
I'd be more
Yeah.
inclined to
So this is something we need to figure out. I mean, we gotta figure out when are we gonna replace these vehicles? Are we gonna replace them all? Are we gonna refurbish them? Are we gonna take some of these vehicles and combine them into one? Are we gonna do away with them? I mean, these are all things that need to be considered. And we spent a lot of money on this study, and I think we got some bad information out of it.
Mr. Chairman, we can't walk away from this, all right? You just brought this up, put it on the table. 4 or 5 pieces of apparatus are there. Some are seriously overdue. We need to address it.
But Chief, with all due respect, you're saying they're overdue because this study put a 15-year life expectancy on these vehicles. These vehicles have more than a 15-year life expectancy.
Right, but where's the rescue now? How many years?
The rescue is in 1999.
Okay, so we're at right now, we're at 26 years. Accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. 26 years is a long time. I get it. You know, I think we could probably look at here a little bit more is, I think the formation of some type of a study committee, you know, for each house here to come back. You know, maybe they want to combine the rescue and the engine for a squad or something. I don't know. That's their deal. But, you know, we just threw 125,000 back by not refurbing the tanker, and then, you know, another 125 by not buying a Chiefs car and stuff. You know, between the 3 items that we just threw back here tonight, we threw back $315,000 back to the town, and we had already budgeted in here in capital expenditures. That's a significant number. But keeping that in mind, since that was already in the capital plan, I can't see why some of this can't either, I don't want to say slide it in, but can't be put into some type of a capital expenditure in the near future to address things like that. I mean, especially on the stuff downtown, we've got in 2 years from now, 450,000 for Squad 5. And that's already there. So that 315 is still sitting here, you know, that was in the budget and we didn't use it. I have some other ideas on it, which I'd like to discuss in a little while, but we're not looking for more money here. This is stuff that was already here that, you know, I think
I think there's whether it was actually allocated is another problem.
Right.
So
Right.
maybe on this piece of
It
paper,
wasn't
I
a
don't
big
know if it was
secret.
ever taken.
It
wasn't a big
What we
secret.
need to do is we need to come up with an accurate replacement plan of when these vehicles need to be replaced or refurbished. What we're gonna do, are we gonna replace it or are we gonna refurbish it? And we should be putting a dollar amount into every year into the capital plan so that it accrues. So that, you know, if you put 300,000 in this year and you put 300,000 in next year, all of a sudden, the third year, you got 600,000, you can refurbish something.
And we did that once, right? They paved the parking lot here with it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
something like
You know,
that.
the town, we've been talking about this for many, many years, and the town, for some reason, will not go that route to put some money away. We do that, we put $50,000 away each year for reassessment.
We did it for fire trucks at one point
Well,
and it didn't work.
You know,
It got used on the biggest need at the time.
there are nearby towns that do just that. You know,
Yeah.
Milford's a good
Well,
example.
It
No, it's
is,
not a
it
bad
is,
idea.
it's a
It should
good
be done
idea,
that way.
we should be doing
Well,
it.
I mean, I think that's like the whole purpose of this commission.
So that's what you would do, is you would look at the replacement costs of those vehicles over the time, and then you would set a money amount, a dollar amount, and you would budget whatever that takes year by year to pay that, if that's what you wanted to do, but I think the vehicles need to be replaced by need, as a problem versus just the.
Right, we
on
can't-
paper.
We can't just say that we have to replace this vehicle because it's 20 years old.
Right,
You gotta justify it being
Yeah,
replaced for some other reason other than the fact that it's 20 years old.
this front end is worn out, it can't be
Because
fixed.
just because the NFPA says you have to replace your vehicle every 20 years, does not mean you have to replace your vehicle every 20 years. NFPA is not law, it's only a guideline. OSHA is the law, and OSHA does not have a requirement as to when you replace your apparatus.
But we want them to be safe.
Well, you know,
So
absolutely.
if you
We
came in
want,
and
we
said-
want quality apparatus, there's no
Right,
question about
Right,
that.
functioning, safe
But-
apparatus, right.
For example, Bethel's tanker does not need to be replaced. I mean, that truck is still like brand new.
That's my question on Rescue 3. What is the issue? Like,
Right.
What does it need? Does it need the front end? Does it need an engine? Does it have a bad tranny? Does the rear end make noise, you know?
Have we outgrown the vehicle? I mean,
Right.
why do you need to replace that
We
vehicle?
definitely could use more room, but it's just, it's old.
It's old. See, I mean, to me, that doesn't really justify replacing because it's old. I mean, I'm old. I mean, well, I guess I probably opened my mouth. All right.
So let.
I mean, if it's old and the frame is rotting away and the cab is falling off, that I can understand.
Right,
But
it has
just
a-
to say, we gotta replace it because it's old, doesn't make sense.
So maybe each department can go back and make a list of their priorities and truck replacement or their ideas and come back, like Bill said, right?
Mr. Chairman, maybe just as Pete just suggested, have each department look at their fleet again. And maybe, one person from the commission, meet with them. To go over their needs. Let's try to get an accurate.
I think it's fair.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I think we can agree that Rescue 2 is probably the next piece of apparatus in town that needs some attention. What that attention is, I don't know.
I will get a price on making Rescue 2 and Engine 3 one unit.
Or a price on each one.
And I'll see if he can separate it to each.
Sure. Right, gotta be
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, it's probably almost a $2 million, maybe over $2 million to make a rescue pump.
Right, it might be cheaper to buy them separately.
I don't know.
I don't know, have to do it, right?
I would assume that,
I will work on it before the next.
I would assume that we're probably spending over $1 million on a bumper today.
I'll have.
And then, I mean, downtown, I would assume that, I don't know, is Rescue 1 the next piece that would need?
The insurance one.
I would say the ladder truck would probably be the next thing to be replaced.
Yeah.
It is a
We could do one of those?
1977 aerial device.
Yeah, it's a 1977 piece of aluminum on top of a 2008 truck.
There's a lot of new features out now.
Yeah. We're on borrowed
And
time.
safety features.
We're on borrowed time.
Well, and plus it's gonna take 2 to 3 years to get a new truck made, built.
It's gonna take 2 or 3 years to get an engine.
So, all right, so making that statement, between Rescue 2 and Truck 1, what needs attention first?
Oh, I have no doubt in my mind. I'll speak up first as a ladder. You know what? People don't think we use a lot. We put the ladder up 4 times in the last 2.5 weeks. Okay, so then maybe we're gonna go a couple of months without putting it up, and then we're gonna put it up 4 more times in 2.5 weeks. It's the nature of the beast of that particular unit. But as I alluded to earlier, these apartment buildings scare the pants off me. Out there in Stony Hill, the new ones being built downtown, it's tough, and it's the density of the housing and the buildings in the center of Bethel, and the fact that they're all wood frame. I mean, 26 apartments over the top of the English drugstore. It's approved. It's coming. I mean, and that's just one project. I mean, that screams ladder truck all over the place. And, we need one that's a little bit more versatile and can get the job done. And, I'm definitely in favor of putting this ladder on the.
I don't think anyone will question a 48-year ladder is.
That's
at
a
the end
little
of its
old.
life.
Yeah, I
Yes, I don't think anyone's gonna question it.
Yeah. So where do we put it though? Where do we put it in this?
Up to you, put it in a place.
I'll put it in for next year.
Why wasn't it in this year?
It was in last year.
Yeah, it was.
No, it's Bethel, replace ladder truck is not in uniform. It was in the 23, 24.
It fell off.
Right, it was
Yeah,
sticking
it
out.
was there.
That is correct. So we're 2 years behind on something that got pulled out. If we just pull out a couple more things, I have to be honest, guys. I think we're being pretty generous from the Bethel Fire Department here. And maybe it's time that we just bite the bullet and put that ladder truck in. It's feasible, it's reasonable. I think our ISO friends are gonna support us on that 100%. And, I think the quicker we jump on this, the better off we're gonna be.
You need your board of finance members to support you.
I know.
That's where you need.
But you know what,
support.
we gotta crawl before we walk and walk before we run. So let's start crawling tonight.
I think a lot of this too is you have to socialize the idea. It's gotta show up on a number here so people start to see it and start to worry about it. The fact that it fell off and disappeared, that's a problem.
That's
right?
Well, that was a whole controversy, wasn't it? So,
Listen.
but there's no
listen,
reason not to have the numbers. Get the
I understand
numbers, present the numbers.
So I think we can agree that
the
probably Truck 1 and Rescue 2 are the two most immediate pending needs. What we're gonna do with Rescue Two, I guess we're not quite sure yet. As far as, you know, is it a replacing a rescue, is it combining it into a rescue pump or whatnot? But I mean, you're gonna work
I'm
on
gonna
that.
get you a number.
And you're gonna get us a number on a ladder truck and we gotta get them in there.
Guys,
Dave,
front page of the paper a couple of months ago, Southbury, when they went to bid on their ladder truck, they just took delivery of it the other day. They put 1.8 million in for their ladder. They wanted a Seagrave Tower. The bid came in at 2.4 million. Pierce bid 2.2 million. And, Rosenbauer, Spartan chassis, 1.8. John Michaels, the chairman of the Board of Finance of Southbury, is an extremely active member of Southbury Fire Department. Michaels Jewelers, that's John. He said, I can't justify this 2.4. He said, the second one at 2.2, 1.8. What do you guys want to do? You got 30 days to come back because the bid had a 30-day restriction on it. And they came back and they ended up buying a $1.8 million one. I don't want to be in that position. I agree with you, Chief. I think we need to put an accurate figure in here. And I'm not going to lie to you right now. You know, 2.4, 2.5 is probably right on the money.
Well, I mean, we know that. We just spent 1.7, right?
A little more than that. Yeah. But you took a stock unit. That's a big difference. It's a big difference. And that unit in Southbury ended up being a stock unit, by the way, too. So, and so what you do is when you take these stocks, a lot of time is you don't necessarily get what you really need. You know, wants and needs, but no different. So that's it. So in deference to what all you gentlemen are saying here tonight, we will come back very soon with figures for you. I promise.
Okay. You stuck with the Sutphen because of the height?
I might make some calls tonight on that, but I'll kid. So what was your question?
Are you stuck with the Sutphen because of the height? The attractiveness of the Sutphens is they're low
No.
road height.
You know, I talked to the Sutphen guy the other day. By the way, Frank Giants left MES.
No, did he?
He's the Northeast representative.
I saw they had an ad for a sales representative.
The Sutphen, with this post-COVID thing, put a restriction of 5 fire trucks to be sold each year on older dealers because of the lack of service. So a big operation like MES Shipments could only sell 5 fire trucks a year, and it was 4 engines and a ladder. So, you know, we have to look at that as well. You know, so the quicker we plan this, the quicker we get a figure, the quicker we go to town on this thing, and then expect a 3.5 year delivery time. You know, we're looking 5 years down the road if we had this in the budget next year. I don't know how acceptable that is. I don't know if this ladder is going to last 5 years.
Mhm.
You guys don't. I mean, you're all firemen, you know stuff. So again, Endicott, we'll get working on this right away and get back to you, okay? But let's put that in. Let's put that ladder in tonight.
Yeah, but we can't just work on that. We have to look down the road
I
and we need to itemize the replacement plan for all the apparatus. What comes after the ladder truck in your department, chief? What's after that? What's after, you know, the rescue truck in your department? You know, we gotta take all your apparatus and lay them out in order, you know, that word, order. That's the word. Order of when they need attention, whether it be refurbishment or replacement, and then bring us a spreadsheet.
And that's the way my template is set up.
That's the way it does.
Every truck is there with years.
All right. So I have one more motion.
Here we go.
I have the 10-year bottle replacement plan that I had actually submitted, we worked on, submitted to the comptroller. Apples you can't read because my printer ran out of ink. So you gotta put your glasses on and Stony Hills. But this takes the SCBA bottle replacement plan out to the 33-34 fiscal year. I question Bethel's only because I think this was prepared before Bethel got a windfall of some bottles that they acquired from upstate. So I don't know if this is accurate.
They were looking in September there for a substantial number of bottles, correct?
I think in the let's see, it's true. Like I said, he ran out of ink. In the 24-25 fiscal year, I think I got, it says 4 bottles.
Right.
25, 20, no, that's 24, 25 is already back. 25, 26, so we have 14 bottles.
That is, yep, you're right.
And what's the dollar value? 16.8?
And that was what, the half hour bottles? About what, 13?
I think I-
350.
We had it at $1,200 each.
It's on a bid, probably if we bought them July 1st. What did those come in at, you know?
I think it's like a state bid price.
16.8 for 14 bottles.
Check with the 12.
All right.
It was 16.
In any event, I'll make a motion that the chairman incorporates the following 10-year bottle replacement plan. It's in there. It's in there
Send it.
for both departments?
Second line down. both
All right,
departments.
fine. I withdraw my motion.
No, you put it in.
One is
I did put it in, but I
one is
didn't know that-
16.8 and one
I'm looking at this capital plan that the chairman handed out.
I worked on.
I know. But I'm looking at this, that the chairman gave us last meeting.
That went in like 2 months.
Mr. Chairman, hey, guys, thank you. Listen, I gotta go back to this $315,000 give back because everybody
It
knows.
wasn't even there.
I
You're
am
not
a
giving
cheap
it back.
escape, all right?
It's just numbers on paper.
In September of 2021, the Bethel Fire Department put in for the 12 replacement air packs. We don't know when they're still gonna be manufactured. We're way into that. We're 3.5, no, almost 4, over 4 years now. With that being said, in that period of time, all those other air packs now are really old. All right. Again, we gave back a lot of money. If we could grab just one of those $125,000 items, let's say the refurb on a tanker, and put in for another 12 air packs, we're gonna be pretty good for the future. And Chief, you talked about safety. That's right. We're knocking at that safety door big time.
It sounds logical to me.
It is because
The suggestion I would,
we got air packs that are still over 30 years old. Driving me crazy. All right.
the suggestion I would
For
make,
this year,
You
Bill,
can't make them.
Say,
for this year, 25, 26 or 26, 27?
we've had that one, well, it was 112.5 and we had to take money out of there to pay for those used bottles that you just talked about, pushed us down to about 99. For the 12 that have been sitting here for about 4 years, the 12 air packs. And I brought that up last month that we're gonna have to grab that 12,000. And I talked to the selectmen about it to get back up to that figure that will probably be accurate on the cost of the new air packs once they release them for purchase. I'm talking about the next 12. That was September of 2021. And due to COVID and the lack of materials, they just didn't get made. And you could buy some from any of these manufacturers, including Scott, but you're buying the old stuff. And they'd love to get rid of it, but it's not up to date. Standards got pushed back. Even the PA guidelines got pushed back. And we had a gentleman come and speak to us about it the other night. They really haven't done much changes on it until they release these new ones. And now we're going to get something decent. And I don't think the cost is going to be much different than what it was, with that 113,000 we put in 4 years ago. But if we could put 125 in now for another 12, and we get that in here in the next couple of years soon, I think we're going to be okay.
I'd like to make a suggestion on that.
I'm sorry.
When's the release date?
They don't know.
They're trying to say at the worst case scenario, July 1st. We'll go out to the FDIC here the first full week of April, and that's usually when they make their announcement. And they'll tell everybody there, yeah, we're going to release them. The New York City Fire Department did all that work on theirs, and they had them for 2 years in the field. And the gentleman from Scott told us the other night that they sent it back to the drawing board after 2 years. They didn't like what they had, but they had their own spec. It wasn't what we're looking at, the standard spec. So, but please,
I'd like to make a suggestion on the air packs. This is Chief Holmberg and myself both did this when we were chief. When you buy a new piece of apparatus, include air packs in the spec for the apparatus. And then you have new apparatus coming or new airbags coming all the time. That's what we did when we brought the tower in. That's what we did when we brought Engine 5 in. Those trucks came with new airbags.
well, Chief, yes, you did. I was and you showed me that engine the night it came in. I was down there with Mark Corey. And then now those air packs are 10 years old.
Right, but you're talking about replacing a ladder truck. So you're gonna get 6 new air packs on a ladder truck.
Yeah.
Might put you over. budget.
Well, let's, I'm not
Well,
gonna
there is
put-
no budget. We don't have a number, so.
Yeah, we need the air packs before we'll ever see that ladder truck.
If we're doing
Wait, so Bill, I asked before, do you
I'm
want it
sorry.
in the 25, 26 or the 26, 27 budget?
I'd like to put it in 25, 26. It's the only thing in there.
So, wait, how many air packs are we waiting on that we've already ordered?
We haven't ordered them yet. We're waiting on it. We're waiting on the release.
How many air packs are we waiting on that we encumbered money for?
12,
12. And you want 12 more?
correct.
At the same time.
Well, I know if it would be at the same time, but yeah, it could be if we put it in for this coming year.
Then that means you're replacing 24
At
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 15, 20 years from now. Yeah, it's not an overnight thing. The only thing you'd be changing 15 years from now would be the bottles. But while we're on the bottles, you know that they just came up with an extended bottle purchase. That you can get bottles that go more than 15 years now. They're heavier and they're a little bit more expensive. So they're about, what do they say, 1.5 pounds per half-hour bottle? So the half-hour bottles now that you can get the extended life on, run about $200 more per bottle. So they'd be $14.50 instead of the $12.50, whatever. And, but the weight is a little bit heavier. So they're about, I think, look, about 1.75 pounds more per bottle, which isn't that bad, but you're going to get the 25, 30-year life out of those bottles. I mean, that's something we could look at too. And
We have
that
to
would
buy 24 air packs in 1 year because
Yeah.
then we gotta buy
All right,
24.
listen, I'll meet you halfway. Give us 6 next year and 6 the following year.
I'm giving you 12 this year.
I know it, but that was from September 2021.
Yeah, but if
12
you,
air packs is gonna fill your 2 engines.
Yeah, and then we have a rescue and a ladder truck too.
When was the last time you used an air pack off the rescue truck for anything other than training? It's not a trick question.
Oh, wasn't that long ago?
Are you
Reservoir.
saying you want to take them off?
Car wreck.
I'm not saying I want to take them off, but I'm trying to justify the need to replace them. If you're taking 12 air packs that are not, I mean, they're old, but they're not that old. You're gonna take those air packs that are on the engines now, and they would get moved over to the rescue truck.
All right. So in anticipation of that, that ladder, we put together a committee, which we're gonna do. And maybe purchase it for the next year or so, and then purchase that, we're looking at least 4 years. All right. I'm trying to be reasonable here and getting back a lot of money tonight. In addition to the 12 that we got from 9 of 2021, let's go 4 more next year, 4 the following, and 4 the following. So we're gonna be accurate now with the aging air packs that we have. I'm not telling you this because I want air pack. I'm telling you because we need them. They're old. They're old.
what is the likelihood if you added 4 more now that you're gonna get the 4 extra ones when you put the order in? Is there, you said you had
Oh,
the 12, so you have,
We're really counting.
if you say I need 16, are they gonna ship you 16?
They would, but if we ordered them, let's say they release date is July 1st, we are on the order list. And the anticipation would be the earliest we'd see them is in 6 months. So we wouldn't see them until January of 26. And that's what he said the other night, right? That was pretty accurate.
Also, this is gonna turn into a safety concern because the newer air packs, the pass alarms are gonna go off sooner than the older packs are.
Yeah, see, we're still with the 25% air pack alarms. So half of the air packs will go off at 33% air and the other ones are going off at 25% air. That was a good point that brought up during a meeting the other night. So if we can get up to the new standards of the 33% alarm on the air packs, then it's gonna make it, because if we have a mix in there of one firefighter with 25 and a 33, when the 33% air remaining goes off, they both have to go. So, you know, it's a good point, Dave. And there's other things that were brought up.
But you also gotta consider that you got a whole pile of air packs in Stony Hill that are just as old.
I know it, but I'm trying to be a little proactive here because ours are real old. So would
How
you,
old are yours, chief?
I don't know.
I think yours are older.
The last air packs that were bought in Stony Hill, Kenny Parchestepi bought 12 of them at a shop. And then before that, we acquired some from Brookfield Fire Department that were probably 20 years old, but they were updated to the newest standard. So they're not like 20 years old, but they're probably 15 to 18 years old.
Cause we bought, in Bethel, the air packs, there were 6 air packs bought with the ladder truck in 2008.
Those are the same ones.
And what year, whatever your squad 5 is, that came with 6 air packs.
it's 10 years of 2015 on squad 5, so they're 10 years this year. In 2008, so 2008 brings us up to 16-year-old air packs. So we have.
See, the mistake was is you didn't buy air packs with N6.
Well, there was, I guess I wasn't there. There was severe budget restrictions then.
So
Would it be reasonable to get 4 a year in the next 3 years? in the capital?
alternating between departments, can we do it that way?
I have no.
Or do we make a townwide list of which are the oldest and what needs to be replaced first? Would make
No
more
problem
sense to
with that.
me.
Not at all.
Cause I hate to say you have a 25-year-old one, but he's got a 30-year-old one and we give you one new pack. That doesn't seem right in my head. So
This is another topic that needs alignment, because in the capital budget, Stony Hill has $60,000 in 27, 28, 29, 30, and 30, 31. So again, I think it's another line item that needs to be mapped out between the departments and hit them.
I'd rather do it by need than just do it by need, like who needs it
Yeah,
first.
that number sounds light anyways, like real light compared to.
Yeah.
Bill, I got a question about the order. When the order went in 4 years ago for these packs,
Right.
did the Board of Finance commit the money? I see it's.
Whatever the dollar amount was, it was encumbered.
It is encumbered.
Yes,
So why are they holding the 16,000 there?
Why are they holding?
Well, because
What number is that question?
Where?
the 25, 26.
That's just bottles, Rich.
Oh, that's just bottle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you look down, see, Stony Hill's got 60,000 in 3 consecutive years, starting in the 27, 28 for air pack replacement.
Bethel doesn't actually even have.
Bethel
that.
doesn't have anything for air pack replacement in the capital. All they had was the money that was encumbered for 12, and that's not even enough money at this point.
Right.
Right, because you spent some.
We really need to have a list of
On
this.
used bottles.
Yeah.
So, I guess we need an accurate cost of an air pack. And I guess dates, I mean,
Yeah.
dates of the air packs, and we gotta come up. I mean, we can't, I can't see what we're,
Just like the tires and the bottles.
Yep.
I can't see us buying
And the
20,
gear,
24
same thing.
bottles or 24 air packs for one department. You know, in 1 year, we gotta spread it out, you know, over the course of,
I'm okay with spreading it out.
but we gotta, you know, if we gotta buy some here, we gotta buy some there, and we gotta get everybody up to date. We can't,
Okay, so what was the first year they were going for the 60,000?
it's 27, 28.
All right, would you put in for 4 air packs for next year on top of that, and then we'll see where it goes after that. Or you want to skip, a year and go to the following.
Budget, right?
Yeah.
So let's just leave that. And then Bill needs 4 more and
I think if we're gonna go make this all nicey nice, we should review it all. Right? You should go back and look and make sure it's accurate and all that.
Yeah.
I
Similarly,
mean,
the same-
what does one single air pack cost?
It's gonna run 10,000.
I
So-
don't remember numbers.
So he's getting 6.
So Stony Hill's current plan gets us 18 packs over the course of the next
I never did it.
4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Now I understand what you want.
Yeah.
So.
That's complete.
Yeah, it was to come away with
Yeah.
like, well, I thought.
Yeah,
tonight
one
was
bottle, one
clean
mask
shit.
and a harness.
Yeah.
Let's just table this now.
Yeah.
and start from
That would
scratch.
affect our bottle
This was
replacement.
supposed to be the shortest.
Yeah.
Is that the new price coming out?
Right, you know, if we were to consolidate these purchases over the next 4 to 5 years, as you have alluded to here, between the downtown and Stony Hill, and we were to buy, you know, a reasonable amount each year over the next 5 years, and get us up to date with all the new standards and the 33% air supply and all that stuff, I would see that as being reasonable.
And we should be buying the same air packs for the two departments.
Well, we do,
too.
we all use Scott, yeah.
Yeah, no, to expect it to the same. And we're not, we don't currently do that.
Right. And you're looking at the wireframes?
They're the same pack.
Yeah, we got,
Yeah,
Same
There's
exact
no-
facts.
there's no
same exact,
difference.
yeah.
They have 30-minute bottles, you got
We have
45
that's
minute
a-
bottles.
They're
It's
going
the
in
difference
dirty,
in the
though.
bottle, it's not the pack.
Yeah, what's that, we are not buying 45-minute bottles.
They have buddy breathing connections
So
on
do
theirs.
they.
You do too?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do.
And the other thing is that we talked about this earlier. The second wagon coming into town during the day might be engine 3. I don't care whether you're Stony Hill or Bethel guy. I want you to grab an air pack you're familiar with.
Well, that's my point. That's why I say we should be buying the same air pack,
Exactly.
spec the same way.
Same air pack, same size bottle, same rescue connections, same mask. Absolutely. Absolutely. Doug, is that reasonable for you?
Yes, Billy.
Okay, good.
Hey, if I can just interrupt. So I'm just looking back at some old emails and notes. Stony Hill, Kenny did a 3-year plan to buy air packs for the same reason, because back then they were very expensive. So it looks like it was the 07, 08, and 09 budget years. They purchased 6, I believe we did 6 air packs each year. So that was 18, and that kind of got us to where we were. And then, like Dave said, I think we bought them afterwards, right, from Brookfield. So that's when the majority of our packs are from like 07, 08, 09 at Stony Hill.
So that's the newest one is 16 years then. 16 years old this year.
Mm-hmm. And the oldest are almost 20.
Right.
You should really do a list of his.
I think that almost takes priorities over buying trucks.
You guys go to the conclusion that you want the longer, life bottles, for the 200.
I know we talked about that. They're heavier.
They're 5.5s too.
Yeah.
Go on.
I think that we're okay with the 15-year bottles and not going to the heavier, more expensive bottles. Say 200 and I got. Yeah,
I'll make a motion. We'll see how it fits in. I'll move that we leave the $60,000 in the 3 consecutive fiscal years for air pack replacement as it is for Stony Hill. And I'll make a motion, I'll continue with that motion that we put $60,000 in 3 consecutive fiscal years, starting in the 26-27 fiscal year for the Bethel Fire Department for air pack replacements. So it'd be 26-27, 27-28, and 28-29. It would be at $60,000 in each of those fiscal years for air pack replacements. So you would be starting 1 year ahead of Stony Hill.
okay.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion on the motion, though. We discussed plenty already.
And now we can discuss it.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays?
Gentlemen, thank you.
Motion passed. Yeah, you got it? All right. Perfect.
I just don't want to replace them all, have to replace them all.
Not at once.
No,
20 years from now.
All right.
But you never get help from that before.
I'm done making motions. It's up to the rest of
Well
you.
done. So I think if we get to this template, I'll enter the stuff when we just did. I'll send the template back out, but I think this is a great discussion tool because it's gonna show the years of the trucks. It's gonna show the whole goal. And obviously the goal is to get everybody on the same page so that when it goes to the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen, it looks clean and tight and everybody's talking the same way. So I think we're headed that way, right? We're getting there.
While we're on the subject of adding things on here, then the one thing that we should be adding on here is to redoing the floor at Stony Hills Firehouse, the bay floor.
What was the bill on that?
What is it?
I don't know if it needs to be in capital or that winds up in the expense.
Well,
the
that was
operating
my
budget.
question. Does that go in here? Or is that something we just present to the?
That would,
Well,
that
you
would
got
go
a
in
dollar
capital.
amount?
That's what Bethel paid for theirs when I had Bethel's done.
You have a dollar amount?
Yeah, that's bad.
I do have the dollar.
Well, we get a chance
I
to.
hear some guy advertising on TV, epoxy paint.
in one day.
Bethel's was
Comes in one day.
30,000.
Yeah, one day, yeah.
I have a question on building maintenance. Bethel's building, the roof is leaking right in the front stairwell and the windows are shot. Where does that come in? Because I don't think we can leave moldy ceiling tiles and water running down the wall.
Was it, if I'm not mistaken, Chris had told me that was gonna go in a building and maintenance program on the town side.
Do we know that for a fact or?
Well, this commission is in charge or has an oversight on building maintenance. So I mean, if it's something that needs to be addressed, then we need to address it. You know, where it gets paid for, that's another question.
I can push that out to Dan.
So
Figure out where that comes out.
Are we looking at a roof replacement, a roof repair?
It looks like a repair, but those windows need to be replaced.
Yeah, there was a number that came out years ago about that. It was a big number for the windows.
Chief, let's work with, building maintenance, get a cost on roof repair and window replacement. We'll take it from there at where it gets,
Now, how does he go through building maintenance to get a cost? Or does he just have K-Man Glass look at the glass and give a price?
I'm sorry, who'd be the contact
Right, how do you do that?
in town?
yeah, I guess get a hold of Cayman Glass and get a cost on replacing the windows. And I don't know who Bob, who's the town used for roof work?
They use Silk Town Roofing and there was one other one.
I would suggest you talk to the building,
That's part of the gravel.
Building inspector?
The public, works director. Eric.
Swenson,
Swenson.
Town engineer,
What's the name again?
Swenson, Eric Swenson.
Eric Swenson.
Or you can-
And he might have those numbers from before.
but it might be in a budget already somewhere else.
And I don't think it's in a budget somewhere else, but he'll have the information.
It's been my past experience with the roof leaking at Bethel Fire. It's because the roof drains are all plugged up with leaves because they refuse to cut the tree down that hangs over the top of the firehouse.
If it's as simple as that,
It's just-
great.
Could be just as simple as somebody going up on the roof and clearing the roof drains of the leaves
I'll
And that
contact.
floor,
and then getting the tree cut down.
that floor is 44,600.
We don't own any tree cutters, do we?
I would say that's a capital thing.
That would be a capital.
I believe so.
Floors?
But get a number and
I just
You
give you,
got, he had 44,000.
that's one number I got, one point.
do we have a year that we want to try to plug that in?
It would be nice to put that in this year.
It won't have, I'll tell you right now, it won't happen this year.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Then next year.
Good next best choice.
There's probably nothing going in this year's. Yeah,
All right. Any other discussion of the capital plan?
when will we know if these bottles are approved for 25-26, so we can order them sooner than later?
You have to go to the Board of Finance and
Board of Selectmen first.
or the Board of Selectmen, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go to the Board of Selectmen and make a request to make a capital expenditure. The Board of Selectmen recommends it, then it goes to the Board of Finance, and they have to
That's when
approve
you
the
guys
capital
were here.
expenditure.
This is just a wish list here.
That's what happened with in Bethel, with the $7,000 for tires for the tower. They never went to the Board of Selectmen and say, I need the capital expenditure for the $7,000 for the tires. So it just
Right,
got taken out of their
That's
vehicle
not
maintenance
just what
account.
we're here for now, though, that you guys have presented to the Board of Selectmen.
That would seem to make sense.
That would seem to make sense, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Well,
thought,
Do we
Well, that's what we're doing, is we're trying to,
So are we sending a recommendation on all these things to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance saying we reviewed these and these are?
Is it needed anything? But we're only doing for the current year,
for the current year, yeah.
for the current year.
So ultimately, we gotta get this thing filled out clean and say, here it is, and then we can go with it.
You'll have the current year filled out clean by our next regular meeting, right?
Mhm.
So we could, at our next regular meeting, we can say, we'll recommend to the Board of Selectmen that the following capital
Yeah.
expenses be made.
An adoption
For
of
the
the forward-looking,
respective department.
yeah, an adoption of the forward-looking.
Makes sense?
So they don't have to, they don't have to do it even in person.
So you got the four numbers.
Yeah.
Add those.
I got it.
to what you're doing.
All right.
Did that make sense to you?
No, that's it.
Well, then, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we put the $45,000 in for the Stony Hill, firehouse, floor for the 26, 27 budget year.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? So moved. All right, we go to budget, go to capital for now. All right, let's move on to tax abatement. So the homework assignment was come back with a proposal of eligibility requirements and then discuss how many people have a number that says how many people would be eligible for it. Who wants to go first? Or it should be the same, right?
Sorry, yeah. Or no, that's what we have.
The first two.
Should the same.
No.
I think we- I got one.
I have.
Oh, good. Yeah.
There's currently probably gonna be 47 guys in Stony Hill eligible for the tax abatement.
Okay.
Out of 79.
So,
Which
we're trying to figure out the easiest way for everybody to see what's here.
I should have actually.
We can make copies or.
Don't make any motions wrong.
No, we won't do anything. Bill, are you gonna have something similar to hand out?
We're gonna make a presentation. And, but part of our presentation is, we give you a little historical perspective on how this took place. And before we give you a firm number, we have to, make sure that we understand what the ramifications are gonna be for eligibility. Because apparently the town has already established the eligibility. And we need to clarify that before we go any further down the street. And I give Mrs. Clark here a lot of credit for doing that research. And, I know maybe you would like her to go first with that. And,
If you can just clarify, and I'll defer to Rich too. What do you mean when you say the town's already established that?
there was already guidelines that were established back when the pension plan was put in place as to how people would, how or if people would, qualify for any benefits from the community.
Oh, so you're talking about old
I
time.
would just recommend we hold off on
Yeah, I
discussion until our secretary gets back.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, you were talking older times. Past when this first came around.
Yeah, but the guidelines are still in effect.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Okay.
But I think, so part of this is on Tuesday, the Board of Selectmen has asked me to come present exactly what we're talking about. So I believe the door is there and we'll have to discuss it. with Casey's not here.
Now, we have to-
Your meetings are long, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
no, now we have the, yeah, right, I've been in this chair,
You noticed
4
that,
hours,
right?
4 hours and 2 nights now. Good thing I like this chair.
We're off the record here, right? You would also ask for
No,
information.
we're still.
We're still on the record.
Okay, there was also a request for, the gear and the age and the active members. We have all that too. Um,
Not that, no. Unpermitted excavation. Well, there's also there's a septic problem too, that's what's.
You see where Newtown just said no to new construction?
Yeah.
But not enough of it. They reduced the size of one of them, like 125 to 99 units.
They did that, so ugly building by the school and said no.
Should have been trying that spot for years.
Press secretary ever. You were gonna be thrilled to know that we held off talking about anything until you got back, so you wouldn't know.
Oh, joyous. That's fine. I have pictures if anybody needs.
That's great, thank you.
Oh, here's the
So if you could, go through the count again. You said there are 70,
There's 78 total members in Stony Hill.
Yeah.
And I figured there's gonna be 27 and it'll be eligible for the tax abatement, give or take a couple.
okay, did you count now, people in a situation like yourself, the out of towns, you still have to deal with that part.
I did consider all the out of town people in there also.
Okay.
But I didn't give you a number of how many are out of town.
No, that's okay. I think it's, we can, this is good enough to work with what we got. Did you have a chance did the chiefs work together? Are these,
I didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay,
This was put in place in Stony Hill years ago. And when Kenny did it, Tommy's still on there. He was what, 2005.
yeah,
And this is what we went by to the present. that we would-
so this is the existing program.
I figured it was a good template if Billy wanted to look at it and, bring it back to them guys or whatever they wanted to do.
Okay, so there's nothing, other than the number of people that are would be eligible for the plan, there's really nothing new here to discuss, right? This is what exists.
That's what we have, yes.
Okay. Commissioners, any comment, discussion, thoughts on what we're seeing?
The only comment I have is whatever we agree on, it has to be the same for both departments. The requirements should be the same for both departments. Yes. I think the qualifications should be, if not totally, very heavily based on call responses. I mean, when the taxpayer picks up the phone and dials 911, they expect somebody to show up. They don't care that you went to a parade last Saturday. That's just my personal opinion.
I support that.
Totally.
Mrs. Clark.
I think Mrs. Clark probably has some,
I do.
information she'd like to share with the
I do.
commission. I'll make a motion that we hear Mrs. Clark's presentation.
Thank you. I personally don't know what the qualifications or expectations are in Stony Hill. I've heard that they're different, but I don't know exactly what.
Which is why we made the recommendation at our last regular meeting. The two chiefs worked together before tonight.
So I too have numbers. This is actually the sheet from last year. We haven't started. I just got the paperwork from John Sarver today for this coming year. So as of last year, we had 27 people that were eligible. We had 3 people that were, I'm sorry, start with 6. We had 6 people in the 2 to 5 range. we have 3 people in the 6 to 10 range, and we had 18 people that are in the 10 plus. When I took over this, I was verbally told I didn't have anything in writing for what was happening with this, but this is the paper that we used to get originally to apply for people to get the tax abatement. And on this paper here, it says in the middle of the page, eligibility for pension program, yes or no. If yes, continue. If no, stop. They're not eligible for a tax abatement. So for that reason, we go back to what the qualifications were for the pension plan. Okay, everybody good with that? Okay, so the pension plan, the qualification for that was 100 calls. So that we, a couple of years ago, started having staffing for the ambulances because we have to get the ambulance out. That's, of course, a priority. So the EMS people were getting credit for their hours that they staffed, but they weren't getting credit for any calls that they made during those staffing hours. I also have here, so we had, okay, out of the 27 people from, in addition to the 27 people from last year, we had another 15 people that are out of town, and at this point, they don't get anything back. So some towns around here have a reciprocal agreement.
Would those 15 people have been eligible?
Out of the 15 people, there were 8 people out of the 15 out of town that were eligible. We also had 5 people that didn't have any taxable property. A lot of the younger kids, you know, their cars are in their parents' names, they don't own houses and everything. So they don't actually benefit anything from this. And I think, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, Gail, can I just ask you to clarify one thing?
Mhm.
When we were working on this, one of the things that you brought up and emphasized very clearly is that going back with all the controversy that took place with the that pension plan, that
Mhm.
it became not the wishes, but the actual guidelines in the town of Bethel, that the only thing that was entering into their qualifications for tax abatement, as it was at the time for the pension plan, was 100 fire calls.
Correct,
That was it, nothing else, correct?
100 calls,
Oh,
fire
100
or
calls, 100
EMS,
calls
but,
total. Okay, I
100.
just wanted to clarify that.
right,
And when you said the staffing hours, it was 100 staffing hours equal 100 calls.
But that was not
That was
one
EMS.
addressed by the town.
Right, right, but that's what we did, right?
mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you brought that. Can you talk then about the fact that, what happened when the changes were made by the fire company on the pension plan, but the town was not notified, and what ended up happening as a result? Because the town recognizes 100 calls,
Mhm.
but changes were made in the corporation itself were never given to the town, and it ended up being quite controversial. So you want to discuss that for a second?
Sure, that is, that's what happened to the original pension. Apparently there was miscommunication. People at the fire department did not understand that the town was the owner of that pension plan. People in the fire department contacted it was VFIS actually who had it. They contacted VFIS and said, because the original plan was $250 a month was if you completed 20 years and were fully vested, and that would be at age 65, you would start collecting that. So the fire department called VFIS and said, oh, we would like to lower the age that you could collect on 64. Can we pay you money to do that? And VFIS said yes. I don't know how they decided that, because how would they know how many people are going to be in the pension to come up with an amount, but they did. And so that change was made. Then the fire department again lowered the age to 63, gave VFIS more money. VFIS took it, and then we went back and changed it from $250 to $300 a month was the most you could get from the pension. And then someone in Stony Hill actually passed away, and that family went to Stony Hill looking for the death benefit from the policy, the pension, and that person had not been entered into the plan. So when that happened, everybody got shook up, and both departments brought many applications that hadn't been turned in. So then, if you remember Mr. Barry Carina, he got this enormous bill from VFIS because all these people hadn't been added. And that's when this whole thing came to light about what had happened, about the changes that were made. So the town tried to work it out with VFIS. And VFIS also, they were calling people when they were becoming due and asking them if they wanted an annuity. And people said yes. So that money was being tied up. And, you know, if you died the next day, VFIS got all that money back. So it was such a mess that the town, rightfully so, pulled the plug and said, stop everything. So VFIS was not forthcoming with the town. They refused to let the town know how much money was left in the account. It was a lawsuit. VFIS said they were going to take it to federal court. So the town backed out and just said, give us whatever money you have left. And that's how we got to the place we are now. We're self-funded through the town. So I
It's only
also,
self-funded for the people that were in the plan.
correct.
Nobody else is being
Nobody's
added
been
to the
in,
plan
no,
in
no,
the last
nobody's been
15
in the
years.
plan. And I have those numbers too, if you want those. But the, you know, so we need to get on the same page and make sure that both departments are doing the same thing, because we don't want to get in trouble like we did and lose the whole pension.
Ultimately, what came about is what Gail was alluding here tonight and discussed with obviously very good research, is the town owns the guidelines,
Mhm.
not the fire companies. And the town-owned guidelines right now clearly stated as a result of litigation that it's 100 calls. So before we can go in other directions here, we gotta know where the town stands.
Well, that's,
We are,
was
we
for
are
the
the
old,
town.
but that was for the old program.
Right,
So we're looking at a new program.
okay,
So that's locked in.
okay. So you're not gonna allude back to that 100 call?
Well, we can discuss it.
The mission was, coming out of the last meeting, was you guys are gonna get together and come up with a fair and equitable plan
Right.
so that we could say, here's how we're gonna award points. If we award them in this fashion, this is how many people will be eligible, and we're gonna go for the full $2,000 abatement, so the town could understand the whole scope of what we were.
Well, that's the point I was trying to make, is what is that eligibility thing that the town is gonna look at.
That's-
before we
This
spend a lot of
commission is
time.
gonna make a recommendation.
I got a
good.
question.
All right, good. Thank you.
You're recognized.
The pension apparently refers to something that happened 15 years ago,
More.
only applies to X number of people.
Right.
Correct.
It has nothing to do with the abatement.
Well,
So everything we're
No,
talking
no,
about here.
no, that's not true.
it does have to do with the abatement
Does.
For
because
current people, if they're not in the pension,
Only because I use.
Yes.
Because the currently, the people getting the abatement, their eligibility is based off of the guidelines that were set for the pension.
Right, they're using the same.
So we're using the guidelines of the pension
that
that no longer exists to set the
except
eligibility
for
for,
X number of people.
no,
for everybody.
for everybody.
The pension though, it only applies to people in a certain number.
A fixed number.
No more.
and it's
Right.
already-
Correct. So going forward, the abatement will be separate from the pension.
Right. Going forward, the abatement is gonna be whatever
So the standard is what?
whatever we recommend, yes.
Right.
We're gonna recommend something to the select.
Irrespective of the pension, the
Right.
abatement standard will be different.
Yeah, but we're living with a
Maybe.
guideline right now on the tax abatement, which is the 100 call thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was my point, is that,
Maybe not for long.
yeah, hopefully we can change that.
That's
That-
what,
that-
that's what we
that's
were
why
hoping
we're
to
here
do.
tonight.
So the reason we put in a special meeting was so we could have that information to present to the board of selectmen next Tuesday.
So what was the
Clearly, that's not
standard?
gonna happen.
What was the standard you came up with for that, foregoing for the abatement?
We needed to clarify that based on all the stuff that we did.
That's
So
And
they're
I
using
think
100
we just
calls.
clarified that.
That's why I was trying to get a hold of you
Yeah, I know.
to,
Well, it would have taken a little bit more than that, so.
So they do 100 calls, but they don't give credit for committees or position or,
We didn't want to come up with a guideline. Don't say we,
but
Okay.
but you put people in for the tax abatement last year and you used 100 calls, right?
she set that up. And there's only a couple of people.
The way I understand it, the way it went down in Bethel, to be eligible for the tax abatement, you had to make any combination of 100 call or 100 staffing hours.
Correct.
So was the record.
And then Stony Hills gave us this and said, this is what their eligibility is. You need 85 points, and they gave us a list of how you approve those points.
And that's based on a 2005,
Right.
so the
But
20-year-old
still using
guideline.
it.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of
So
Stony Hill?
my point is that the eligibility should be the same for both
Correct.
departments.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have different call volumes, so to say that this department's gotta make 100 calls and this department's gotta make 100 calls may not be the fairest way to go. Maybe it needs to be a percentage of the total call volume.
They're close call volume wise, if you ask.
And I also I understand the value of staffing hours, but I question giving 1 hour of staffing being equal to 1 call. I question that. I mean,
Can I make a recommendation that, you give us a little bit more time on
we
this?
gave you 2 weeks.
I know it. Well, let's give us a couple of days and one member of the commission meet with the 2 chiefs and we'll get this done. And the reason we have numbers
We
here.
can't, I
have
think the
one member
problem
of the
is we can't approve it as a
They just have to
commission.
come back to the
That's the
commission.
problem. So can we push off the time with the selectmen, do you think? I mean, the request
Well,
was,
the selectmen are meeting tomorrow to finalize their budget to the Board of Finance.
Okay.
I mean, it's, the budget is probably takes another month and a half to finish.
So you've
We
got
always go back
27 in
to
each
it.
department,
Yeah.
right? If you give it the full abatement.
Tomorrow I'll push for, our placeholder.
So you're talking
Yeah, you get the dollar value.
$54,000 or whatever the current max is. 54 times that.
Yeah. you get that dollar value, but the other part of it was
And they have
we're
that-
supposed to have the rest of
Tell us,
it. So you get.
but the selectmen really need to know the dollar amount.
So do you have a list of calls, how many people
I
show
do.
up to the calls?
Yes.
I'm gonna just clarify this one more time. Before we went anyplace, we needed to know that 100 call thing was not locked in stone and we were gonna have to, deal with. And now you've clarified that is not the case.
I think we clarified that at our last meeting. We wanted you to come to us with a mutually agreeable plan going forward.
But we did our research on it. We wanted to make sure we were 100% on that. And now we are.
So
if I can, excuse me, if I can ask the question,
Well, we proposed to the board, in previous action, we proposed to the board of selectmen to maximize it. Instead of the tiered
Right, right, right,
5 years at $250.
right.
That's where this whole discussion is evolving to.
But the state max is still 2,000, Fred, or did they raise it?
They raised it to 2,000. It was 1,000.
Or was it?
right,
And members with 25 years, current 25 years of
Right.
service are eligible in perpetuity,
Right.
so long as you have a tax liability.
But for right now, for the town, if he goes to the Board of Selectmen, it's 54 times 2,000 is the liability right now, right? If you did it that way.
If those numbers are accurate, yeah.
do we, because Stony Hill's plan has, they get credit for meetings, drills, things like
That's what you
that.
two are supposed to get together and give us one plan.
With a
Okay,
focus on the town is more interested in responses than going to meetings.
Yeah, calls are
I
more
agree.
over meetings.
So based on that, okay, this is an unofficial figure. I did it. There were 27 people that qualified. Okay? All right.
All right, but also,
100 calls, 100 hours, and we have a ton of people that just have no taxable, you know,
Right.
right, so that's what we were looking for, other ideas. Do we want to, you know, we were talking about pay for calls, $10 a call or something like that. So, so if you got 100 calls, you got $1,000. Well, your tax abatement would be 2,000. So you're doing better there. So, you know, do the guys who don't have a tax liability to the town, do they get cash?
Rich, if I can, in some of the previous discussions that I had with Dan, he wasn't so much in favor of a paper call as he was into setting up Voya accounts, which is
Well, yeah.
which is what the
it's
town uses.
something,
It's
but
like
yeah.
like an IRA
Yeah,
account.
right.
I mean, I could see that, in place of the pension program that, some of us are locked into. I mean, the guys that get the pension, that's great. The guys coming up today, they have nothing. Let's get them set up with maybe like a Voya account.
Yeah, but is it like the Voya account is $10 a call or that goes into that account?
Right.
Yeah.
Some, whatever,
Yeah,
something,
all right,
yeah.
it's not cash.
Or the tax abatement,
Right.
if they don't have tax liability, the tax abatement number could go into
Right,
that.
it could be the same standard.
How many
You get 100
people
calls, you get the-
That have no tax liability would have qualified for something here.
it's like
Is that
15
something, if they're gonna do a Voya, you have to add that number in.
15 and Bethel.
15 out of
Oh, 15
Hey,
and Bethel,
what-
no?
In the current plan,
5 without tax.
for the tax abatement, there was, I believe, a 5, 10, and 15 year.
It was 2 to 5, 6 to 9, and 10 plus.
Okay, so it was, so now when I brought it up to the Board of Selectmen, they said, well, now you want $2,000, but,
For everybody with 2 years. of
well,
service.
but we didn't have that information at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and they tabled it.
Historically, those people.
Ask you a
make the
question.
most
60
calls.
people with the fire calls last year.
With the,
60 people went to at least one fire call last year.
One.
one,
At least one.
yeah, but we're talking, I'm asking for the abatement purpose,
Mhm.
you have 27 qualified
What's your
that have
total?
tax liability.
Your
Yeah,
total
so
calls
How
last
many
year?
more without the liability?
You jumped over to
Would
the
have
paper call. We're gonna stay with the tax thing here. Okay.
What was your total call volume last year?
527.
Total.
Or
Oh,
1737.
1,735 ambulance and
Yeah.
527 fire. About 2,250
1737
calls.
ambulance,
I
right.
was sorry, 2,000.
1,735 on the ambulance and 527 on the fire.
And that total is, 12, 6, 2262.
A lot of calls. But I just like to say, Dan said to me that he wanted some clarification on the hour thing.
I mean, 100 calls is not even 5%.
I know.
Now, what are Stony Hill?
When I joined the department, you had to make 20%.
The National Volunteer Fire Council states that the average volunteer fireman in the United States does 12.5% of the calls. Okay. Well, if you're out in the middle of Nebraska, you do 100 calls a year, you're doing, they say the average guy does 12. You know, if you did 12% in town of Bethel, you know, you'd be doing about 60 something calls, which is about one a week. I don't know.
We have to consider the total call volume.
I know.
You can't just say just fire calls or just ambulance calls.
And
We have to reward everybody.
right, by giving them a reward that more people are gonna show up
So
for the
you
calls.
have to consider that 2,262 number, not the 527.
Yeah, but what about someone who's not going on just a firefighter?
There's things to do. They
Right,
can drive the ambulance, they can
Alright.
drive the medic car.
They
They
can
can
take it
they can do CPR on you.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to determine.
I mean, personally, I don't think 100 calls is unreasonable.
15 firefighters made 100 calls or more last year. Fire calls. Okay, on the ambulance side, if I remember, I'm close to this, folks, but approximately 48% of the ambulance calls were covered by the staffing agency, 52% by the volunteer membership. But that also, there were volunteers that ride during the day if they want to get some time, you know, but it was right there. So if we're at 1735, so, 8, I don't know, let's round it off to 875. So, if you did 10%, you'd have to do 87 and a half ambulance calls. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, if you did 10% of the fire, you'd have to do 552.7, one a week. Yeah.
Doug, do you know your calls?
Better just saying that. I think it's the 300 and something fire calls and between 13 and 1,500 ambulance calls.
I think your total, Doug, last year was 1,700. It was right around a little over 300 fire and 1,400 ambulance calls to Stony Hill. They did a lot of calls. Because townwide, it came to just around 4,000. And we estimated that in the town of Bethel, every other hour, there was an emergency call covered by the volunteers. 11 and a half calls per day is what it comes out to. That's a lot of calls, folks.
Doug, on your 300 calls plus calls, what was the average of your response members responding to those calls?
We had to get the truck out, so there's at least 3 guys on the truck, and there could be anywhere from 3 to 6 people left.
So 3 to 6?
Yeah.
We were about 7 and a half per call. Fire
So
call.
Billy was saying he had 15 people that make 100 calls on the fire, did you say?
That's correct.
And how many would you think you had on your calls?
No, we had 15 people made 100 or more calls a year.
Yeah, all right.
In 2024, we responded to 1,632 ambulance calls. 318 were, or total calls, sorry. 1,632 total calls. 318 were fire. 1,314 calls were EMS. We responded, yeah, that's all I got. I can give you
A lot of calls. About 1,650, Doug.
yeah, that's what the number is. It's a total 1,632 calls we did last year between the ambulance and fire.
So what's 5% of 1632?
Well, 10% would be 160, half of it would be 80. 82.
Yeah, but out of those 1,300 ambulance calls, some were staffed during the
Yeah,
day.
they're staffed during the day,
So
yes.
you gotta back those out.
Yeah, no, they can still go to staff calls, sure, or they can staff during that
Yeah,
time too.
we still have people during the day that,
They don't back
Jump
any
on the
calls
calls.
out.
Yeah.
What's 5% of 2262?
22 would be about 1,100.
That's about 110.
1130 to be exact.
Let me ask you what-
5% of
5%.
2262.
Be about 600.
Yeah.
10% would be, 20,
112.
right.
Yeah, so I mean, if you use, if you get away from a total call number, if you use a percentage, I mean, 5% would be 82 calls in Stony Hill, 112 in Bethel.
Pick one number, make it 90.
Yeah,
Well, that's the same in both places,
well, I mean, you could do a percentage too. I mean, just make it 5%.
but it's,
The call
but it's a different number. You're qualifying for the same thing by doing a different number of calls. You're physically doing less in one or the other, you know? If you just pick the same number for both departments, each department people do the exact same, some get the exact same
I
benefit.
think you have to leave it at,
Opportunity is less.
I think you have to leave it at a percentage. Because there's a simple fact that somebody's gonna see, hey, I already hit my 90 calls. They're done at the 90 calls.
yeah.
They're not gonna give you no more after that. If you put it at a percent.
Well, that's what I said. I used your numbers from last year. 5% of your last year's call volume would have been 82 calls. 5% of your last year's call volume would be 112. So,
But it could change depending on if we get more calls that year though.
They can.
right,
it could change, yeah, I'm
saying
go up.
Yeah, I'm not saying use that call number. I'm saying use that percentage.
And the individual's not gonna know the percentage unless if they ask, so they're gonna keep doing calls. If somebody
Right.
sees that they hit that 90 number or whatever the number is, they're done. They're not doing no more calls. I can guarantee you
But
that.
if it's a
That's a horrible
percentage.
thing to
that
So don't
number-
tell them.
They're not-
I was a volunteer for a long time and I never quit when I made my call to get a pension.
I'm not sure.
I still haven't quit.
I don't even live here and I haven't quit.
Well, there you go. So
So
put
either
yourself-
you want it or you don't.
Right.
You know?
I mean, you do it for the right reason or you don't. Nobody's doing this to
They're
you.
not doing, they're not doing it to your rich or whatever. They'd be paid part of it if they wanted to. You know what I mean? It's not the.
It's trying to make an incentive so people show up that, you know,
Are
if there's a
rewarded.
fire in town, you got more than one engine showing up to the fire.
But I think the percentage would also make it universal.
All right,
both
so, all
departments.
right, so the other thing we have to discuss is staffing hours. Are we gonna value one staffing hour being equal to one call?
That was discussed with the first selectman. He was not in favor of that. He didn't feel that was very fair at all, and I have to
Call
agree.
percentage, take that right out of the.
Do we take staffing hours right out of the equation and just strictly base it on calls?
And you count the calls during the staffing hours, right? You would get credit.
Well,
for
yeah,
those
you make the
calls.
call during
Yeah.
staffing.
You could staff for hour after hour after hour, never catch a call.
So they get 10 hours.
But these people that staff get other rewards. We feed them.
Right.
I mean, we let them sleep in the building.
So what we did look at was what an average of one call would equal for 4 staffing hours, and it was about a 4-to-1 ratio. For every 4 hours you do, it's equal to a call. And we thought that was fair and accurate. So you come in on a Friday night, you staff 6 to 10, you get credit for 1 call.
All right, so I'm gonna try your minds here and make a motion. I will make a motion that in order to be eligible for the tax abatement, that you have to make 5% of the total call volume for each respective department. And, and 4 staffing hours would be equal to 1 call. Does that make sense?
Side second.
To be eligible for the tax abatement, you would have to make 5% of the total call volume for each respective department.
Is that combined fire and EMS?
The total call volume for each respective department. 5%. So you made 1,632 total calls last year in your department. You would have to make 5% of that. 5% of that would have been 82 calls. So if you made 82 calls last year, you would have been eligible in your department.
Yeah, I believe that, I don't.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying though, you combine both of them though with fire and EMS, there's guys that are, I don't think my 27 number is gonna be an accurate number to give you.
Maybe
That
those
was the
guys,
next- that was the
maybe
next
those guys
follow-on
would be
question.
more incentivized to make more calls now.
Well, just like I said to Doug though, the number 27 is gonna go up. There's gonna be more, you know what I mean? I didn't use both EMS and fire for that 27. I only gave you a number of 27 for the amount of guys that make just fire calls.
So the part of that was the other part of the discussion was come up with a recipe and then how many people apply to the recipe. So if we just made the new recipe, come back with how many people would be in that.
All right, I'm making the recipe.
No, we got the recipe.
You got the
Now we need to know
recipe?
how many people are
Right,
able to make that
okay.
recipe.
But Fred, like we have on our thing there with schooling and stuff, I don't know why we can't give something for, and not only just schooling, because I'm gonna go farther along of the chief officers getting some kind of extra credit for, you know, all these other hours that we're doing in these meetings and stuff. We should be getting, you know, some kind of point or whatever towards that.
But point taken.
And you say here many times, you know, and as the chief, that, you know what I'm saying? It's.
Oh, I understand your point. I'm just telling you what, you know, previous conversations I've had with the selectman and what he wants to see. He wants to see people being rewarded for making calls. That's the goal. He was very upset when you had that Sunday morning fire at 6 o'clock and we had to call a full alarm from the city of Danbury because nobody showed up for Bethel.
And your schooling's paid for by the town if you take a class, so that's.
There were also a lot of
benefit.
people out of live burn in New Haven and fire one class for us in town.
Yeah, we already went through that. We had 13 or 17 guys that are away. That will not happen again. We've already, me and Billy have already.
Never happen again as long as I'm around.
That's not happening.
I'm talking about the call. I'm moving it through.
On 302, there was communications issues that way. Did we, when we discussed?
I was in New Haven and I heard the call.
No, there was things that were requested to be done. It could have gotten more people that didn't happen.
Regardless, I made a motion.
It's been seconded. We had discussion, so we're at the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Just
All
for,
opposed?
just for the record, the guidelines that are in place now are for 100 calls. What you proposed is changed that very little. So I think that long-term look at this overall, I think it's all pretty fair.
Now, I'm gonna make another motion. I'm gonna move that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen that the tax abatement be handed out in the maximum allowable amount of $2,000 for all eligible members starting at year 2.
I
And
think,
members with 25 years of continuous service be eligible in perpetuity so long as they have a tax liability to the town.
I think we made that. I think we covered that previously.
Continuous or total, because continuous is gonna be a big glitch in your paperwork. and people left and went.
Total, current total. I don't think we did.
I'm pretty sure we did when we moved to,
Well, let's
that's what
just.
started the whole, well, let's do it
Let's
again.
do it,
Yeah,
let's,
we'll
so
do
we
it
submit it all at one time.
You add into that,
I think Gail would like,
dollars. An abatement.
Let's make that a separate motion.
Gail would like
I'll
that.
second your
Abatement
motion.
Or a check.
Are we discussing still, because Gail would like.
But we're second, so we seconded the motion, now we can just all second.
Oh, okay. So I have 2 questions. What about the out-of-town people?
We're just discussing that. We're gonna cover that on the third motion.
Okay. Other question. So so what is the date that we are starting at? Like the old way it was when it was dependent on the perimeters of the pension, July 1st was the magic date. So if you joined the department July 2nd, you had to go a whole year before you completed a year. Because we're saying at 2 years, we're gonna do this. And that's the way the pension was, unfortunately. If you joined the department July 9th, you missed a whole year for the pension because you weren't in it on July 1st of that year. Get it? And then same thing when people left the department. If they left in May, they hadn't hit that July 1st date, so they missed a year there as well. So we just need to pick a date that we're gonna stick with,
Let's make it on a calendar year,
and that's fine.
and it's a
January.
calendar year after you've come off your probationary period.
Okay.
So does that create a problem in that we're not aligned with the tax year? Right, so now suddenly you're gonna be striking it at January, but the tax abatement and all that
Well,
stuff.
the reason we went to the calendar year was because it was in order to get the fire department's time to get the paperwork in for the fiscal year. You know, they total their numbers up in January and they gotta have it in by like now, so
Right.
that it goes out in May.
Voting eligibility too.
In the fiscal year.
So John Sarver just gave me the papers today. And
Correct.
we're gonna be using numbers from January to December to calculate if you have your 5% of your calls or anything. But we use the July date for when is your year start and when does your second year start?
Good question.
I think I saw
Sorry.
a couple more hairs fall out.
Yeah.
I lost it.
I'm sorry.
So the town only does the abatements at one time, right?
Yeah, they go out in July.
So-
The checks go out in July, but it's based,
So,
it's
Based on the
based on the
prior
number,
year.
it's based on the previous calendar years.
There's no prorating.
no.
Yeah, I was gonna beat that.
January to December for disbursement the following July.
Mhm.
That's the word.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we have
Just,
I think we have to award last year's numbers at last year's standard. We can't,
oh, okay, and that's fine. I agree with that.
whatever last year's eligibility for each department is, I think we gotta award it at that. But I think the question is do we want to somehow prorate the 2 calendar months of 25? Or do we just want to say,
Well, no, because it's
You
not
can still
just,
tally the numbers. You can
it's not
still,
just the 2 months. It's like if somebody joins the department in September, when they
They're
get to
gonna have to
July,
wait
they
till the
haven't
following
been
year.
here
They're
for
gonna
a
have to
whole
wait.
year.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
So
wait.
we just need to pick a date and stick with it. And
January 1,
January 1. Okay,
prorated.
Well.
25. So
losing hair faster than Doug?
Well, we gotta back up a little bit.
Well, you gotta
None
get
of
it
this is approved yet.
Right.
right.
Right, so.
Maybe
It's
it'll start
subject to
next
change from
maybe
2
it'll
other
start next
boards.
January.
I would probably say next January. Would be,
Right.
Continue
I
the way
mean,
it's going
it's gotta go
until
through the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance.
So let's deal with the out-of-towners then.
And they might not agree with the 2,000, they might say 1,500, I don't know. The state says 2,000, I don't know if there's some law that it has to be 2,000, but right now it's only 1,000.
Now it's up to two
Cheap.
cheap.
Well,
Yeah, it's
there's
up to
people
2,000,
getting
so.
250. There's people now only getting 250
That's
because it's
convention.
graduated.
They gotta start thinking of what it would cost to have a paid fire department. They're gonna start nickel and diming us over a couple $100 a
I
year.
brought that up. The Gail just brought up a point, and the current regulations also, that it's a graduated thing. And Fred, I think you told me to,
I
1
made
to
them-
4 years.
We're
or-
doing away with that.
We're doing,
All right, so
that was in my
that's-
motion that everybody would be eligible.
The motion passed.
No, we didn't vote
They
yet.
voted, yeah. Did we?
No.
we didn't, but I also think we voted on this previously,
You did,
because I think I motioned it.
to do away with it.
Well, let's just be clear. Vote on it again.
Yeah.
You just
so
like-
it's
you
in
like-
the
you
current
like-
This before we deal with the other. Right?
motion to the board's point.
You like making so many motions, you're making motions that were already made. That's
Well-
not what you're doing.
I want you to be able to make all 3 of these recommendations.
Just
at
bring
one
Fred
time.
to the meeting.
No, don't bring Fred to the meeting.
Do you wanna write down this motion? Yeah, how he said it.
She's better at this than we are. All right, so we seconded, discuss any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
So their current systems keep going until we find out from the selectmen if,
Correct.
Yeah.
so keep doing it.
what you're doing.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Don't
But
change
hopefully,
anything.
hopefully we're changing it. Now we gotta deal with the, well, all right. Well, I'm done. You make a motion now.
Like, you're on a roll.
I'm done.
The members of the departments, I'll make a motion. Members of the respective departments that do not reside in town or have no tax liability receive the abatement. You can do it, you guys, we have for discussion, either in form of a check with a 1099, or if they reside out of town, the town of Bethel can provide funds for the taxes in the town they live in, if they have no liability there. If there's no tax liability anywhere, it's like the kids, you give them a check, and then they get 1099 as income. I'll second that. Discussion?
Sorry.
I'd like to hear Ms. Clark's opinion.
No, I just want to say, and that is, that's a tremendous gift actually, because, the tax abatement, the way it was, if you did not own a home and you only had a car, if your car taxes were $210 a year, that's all you got. So now everybody's gonna be getting the same amount. I think that's a huge
Well-
incentive.
Well, his motion only is addressing out of town residents or out of town members.
Well, no, but I thought we said everybody was gonna get whatever the number comes out to be.
I only addressed
5%.
Right,
Well, I
but
did
if you do
mention-
the, if you do the
I did mention
5%,
people without tax liability in town.
Right, there's a.
Right.
More hair going, Doug.
No, I understood, yes. Okay.
Yeah, no, my motion only encompassed, you know, whatever your tax liability was up to $2,000.
oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not just gonna be handing out checks just because you don't have a tax liability. That's why I discussed the idea of, setting up FOIA accounts for those members, to make up the difference.
So you'd have
That's-
to do it exactly the same for the out of towners.
Yeah.
You can't just write them a check and 1099.
Right.
Yeah,
You have to do
I
it
would
exactly
agree.
the
I
same.
I would say that we can make available, however you want to make the motion, the abatement to whatever their tax liability is, up to $2,000 to their.
Town.
Well, that was in my
residents.
Right.
That was in the motion.
Right, but you gotta take out the part where we're going,
If they don't have a tax liability.
yeah. We can address that with another
Yeah.
incentive,
All right.
what,
Reimbursement.
Just remove
equal
everything about-
other-
The parts without a
Um,
tax
I don't know.
liability.
You have to amend it.
All right, I'll amend it. Those members that reside in another town, the tax abatement will be offered in the form of tax payments to their municipalities. Up to the
up to the
$2,000.
$2,000.
Okay.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Right.
All opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
But that's the people that don't have the
What further
liability.
motion say about, didn't mention that, or-
Yeah.
That's why.
We'll have to discuss that at another meeting.
Incentive.
Further
Yeah,
incentives.
incentives for those.
That's not on our agenda tonight. We can't add to the agenda because it's a special meeting.
See what you get for trying to make a motion. Fred's the motion guy.
Well, you gotta. The agenda does say.
So now what you guys gotta do now, having this information, is now you gotta come back to us with who you think would be eligible with those new guidelines.
How much it costs.
A lot cheaper than a career clerk.
Yeah, before the next meeting, or you need that?
But then you needed it tonight.
Richie needs it
But
tomorrow.
I'm just saying, you guys need to present that.
If
Tomorrow.
Rich had that number for tomorrow, it would be helpful.
That's what I was wondering, so you guys get this information for tomorrow.
I was supposed to go to next Tuesday.
No, it's just, really a board selecting. It's gonna be next motion.
I could get the fire numbers by tomorrow, the ambulance might take a little while.
So the plan is still for me to go on Tuesday with the select, as long as I have something by Tuesday.
Yep, number by Tuesday.
It's almost a week.
Well, it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, basically, you're just looking for how many people made 82 calls last year.
I did too.
Yeah. I mean, how many people made 82 calls last year? For you, how many people made 112 calls last year?
There you go. You almost have it done.
You know, you do less calls to Stony Hill, but you guys, everybody's a combo guy. Everybody's an EMT and a fireman. So you get a chance to go on a lot more calls.
Well, Bethel.
Just because you're not an EMT doesn't mean you can't go on
You
an
don't get
ambulance
the
call.
credit.
Right,
Anybody can drive the ambulance. Anybody can go lift the stretcher.
which we do.
You don't have to be certified to go on an ambulance call.
Oh, you know.
Drives me crazy saying that we don't have the opportunity to make calls. You got plenty of opportunities to make a call. You just gotta wanna make the call.
Probably gotta let them go to the scene too, and not be just on the staff for that to happen.
We're doing a lot more support on the ambulance calls, I think, now than we have in a long time. You know,
And no further discussion on our topic for the special meeting?
Well, let me make another motion.
I know where you're going
I
with
make
this
the
one.
motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second.
Aye.
here,
That was good.
you-